Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pies Nation podcast. Nicholas Sacco here with you. Finals bye week is upon us, and we're struggling for content, but we thought it would be an opportune time to have a chat to a 2010 Premiership hero of the Collingwood Football Club. Maybe we'll sprinkle some stuff about West Coast, but won't be too fond of any of our audience. I speak of Sharrod Wellingham, and Sharrod, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, mate. Thanks.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a exciting time for the Pies. Rubbing their hands together. It's a week off, bit boring this week, but exciting time with finals ahead.
Absolutely, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on. But first and foremost, we'd love to know what you've been up to. You're over in WA, of course, and I hear you're doing some pretty cool things. So give us a bit of an insight into how things have been since post-footy.
Yeah, well, it's been a minute. It's already been, I think this is my 8th year out, so it's gone very quickly. But I work at the moment in my full-time role as an employment mentor and community engagement at the Walich Foundation, which is an evolution of the Wirrapunda Foundation, which was started by David Wirrapunda 20 years ago. It's the 20-year anniversary of the foundation this year, so it's pretty cool. Doing some coaching with the state program over here, looking after the midfield for the state 18s, which is really cool, helping the young crew try and come through. And then just doing some commentary as well with ABC Sports. So, but a lot of stuff on the plate during the footy season, but I enjoy it.
Oh, at least you're keeping busy and you're still getting involved in footy. That's the main thing. How are you finding the coaching role, by the way, with the 18s? So you enjoy the experience of being a mentor for some of these kids coming through?
Absolutely loving it. It wasn't really anything that I kind of thought would, be something on my radar. But as soon as I got, asked to go down and help out, I've really enjoyed it. And they keep asking me to come back each year, so I guess that they must be happy as well. But it's been great to help kind of seek young boys come through the program and help them and see them reach their goals. And some of them have gone on and I coached young Will Hayes last year, which was really cool. So he's made a good impact so far at the Pies, which has been really nice to watch.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, obviously, with your commentary roles and spending a lot of time over in WA, you've watched a lot of Eagles footy, I'm sure, but I do want to get this out of the way early. I need to know where your allegiances lie because you've been involved with both the Eagles and the Pies for many years, and I just want to know that I just want, for peace of mind, to know that you've still got a lot of Collingwood in your heart.
Oh, mate, I got black and white in my veins still, mate. Don't worry about that. The club holds a special place in my heart, and the people that I met while I was there are, all incredible, and still feel very much loved and part of the club. So yeah, allegiance is definitely still there, and it's great that they're going well while my other team's not going so well.
Good timing, I think. So did that extend to 2018 then, mate?
It certainly did. Yeah, well, I was in a win-win situation, and I've said this a number of times that while I was there, I was filthy that I wasn't still able to be out on the ground that year. But I was happy for so many of my teammates that I played with the previous year. But in my mind, I was also like, stuff you West Coast for delisting me. And so I was hoping that Collingwood as a club won. But yeah, I was really, I was in a no lose situation, to be honest. I was going to be happy either way.
Always a good place to be. Now, I want to delve into your journey throughout football a little bit deeper. Didn't realise that you didn't actually start playing footy till you were, I guess, 14, 15 years old. What made you come about to actually playing footy at that time?
So I did like Auskick and
Of course.
a few of the kind of really young stuff, but then I kind of just got a little bit sidetracked for a few years and went off and, put my energies elsewhere. And then ended up through a lot of skateboarding, ended up damaging my knees. And so I had to have a whole year off after having surgery on both of my knees at I would have been 13 or 14. And then following that, I got back into footy. So that was when I would have been in year 10 and that took up all of my energy and was really lucky that I could still remember how to do it and managed to find myself on the pathway to getting drafted. But I grew up loving football. I still watched a lot of football through those kind of younger years. When surfing and skateboarding and hanging out with your mates on the weekend kind of took priority in those early teenage years. It's kind of took a little bit of backseat, but luckily found my way back to it.
Gee, those knee injuries at an early age would have been a bit of a delicate experience. I mean, I had ACL surgery last year and I'm still trying to get myself through that. So I could imagine what it would have been like at such a young age. And it's fantastic to see it didn't derail you from continuing to play sport and being involved in those activities. But did you learn much from those experiences?
Look, it was a young, being so young and having that experience. It wasn't like I felt like I was missing out on a huge amount, and so I didn't feel like much was being taken away. It wasn't. I did do an ACL. It was. I'd cracked all the bones in my growth plate in my knee, so I had like pins put in to kind of let them heal. And so it wasn't like an injury where it wasn't like an acute injury. It was like a over time kind of thing. But yeah, it was frustrating not being able to do anything for a year, especially, surfing and skateboarding, like I said, but, it kind of reignited my, desire to play football once I got off the crutches.
So once you sort of started that footballing journey on a more consistent basis, and I'm always intrigued by how people answer this question, but was there a moment in your younger years where you thought, gee, I'm actually pretty good at this sport. Let's see how far we can take it?
Yeah, I think it was probably in year 11. I played football at Trinity College over here in Perth, which is a really good football, factory. And the coach, who'd been a coach for a very long time, was, pretty complimentary of the way I played football and was always impressed with the way I went about it. And I ended up getting an invite down to Perth Football Club for the Colts program. And it was actually Ben Cousins' dad who saw me playing just local footy and said I was friends with his daughter, and so he said you should go try and get a game at Perth Demons. And I was like, well, if he thinks I'm capable, then I'm sure he's a pretty good judge. Brian Cousins was a very accomplished footballer. That was probably where it ignited my fire to try and bury my focus wholly into making, a good crack at it.
Yeah, there's some people that you just have to take the advice of, and he certainly would have been one of them at the time.
Yeah.
And then that move from playing at Perth and then getting recognised at AFL level by a few clubs, of course, picked up in the rookie draft in 2007. When did you first make contact with Collingwood and how did that sort of initiate you then being part of their list?
Yeah, so it was that was a little bit frustrating. I'd obviously spoken to a few clubs and, interviewed with several, but I obviously didn't get picked up in the national draft. And back then it was, I think, a couple of weeks later, maybe like a week later. And so sitting around kind of twiddling my thumbs, and Derek Hine, who, was at the club for a long time, said that if you're there in the rookie draft at our first pick, we'll take you. And that ended up being the case. So, yeah, it was pretty whirlwind 24 hours. I got a call from the club straight after the draft went through. And then I was on the plane that afternoon. I was at training the next day.
Oh, wow.
I moved over after obviously spending a couple of weeks there pre-Christmas, and then it was so whirlwind, and I just loved. I'd never been to Melbourne. I remember being kind of chaperoned by Neil Ross, who was part of the recruitment team with the Pies, and I remember driving down the freeway for the first time and seeing the city, and I was like, oh my God, this place is massive. And just being 18 and moving to Melbourne, it was such a cool opportunity. I also probably didn't grasp how big Collingwood was, how big of a club it was, how big of a membership base it was, and kind of the passion that's associated with Collingwood. It was every day was something new, and I just loved it.
That feeling of how massive the club had been in the Melbourne landscape thinking pretty early? Is it a matter of training sessions before you realise that the club meant so much to so many people early on?
Yeah, well, it was probably, one of the summer open days where they had, we might have had a clinic or something like that. And just the amount of people and the Melbourne faithful who, just adore coming down and watching training every day. Just being exposed to that passion and kind of love for the club was really cool. And you always saw the same faces. You become familiar with them. And they're great people, lots of fun to chat with. So yeah, it hit me pretty quick how special the club was. And like I've said this to a number of people as well, like you go into the footy club and there'd be, the huge posters of past players, and there was so much history that was kind of in your face from the time you walked in the doors. And so it had such a rich history of successful, great players and names that you kind of heard but didn't know the story, of their careers and things like that. So getting all of that on top of seeing the passion, just made me fall in love with the place.
Now, you spoke about before the frustration of trying to get yourself on an AFL list and getting that opportunity with Collingwood. And I know you lived with Nick Maxwell early days once you moved over to the Pies. And we've had him on our podcast before, and he's spoken really well about the resilience that he sort of had to inject into himself to try and get through those hurdles and become, of course, one of the most storied players in recent history at Pies. Did you learn much from him early days? Could you sense that he was going to be a leader of the club in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. He was a leader from the time that I met him, and it took a few years for him obviously to take over the reins as captain. But his leadership style was unique in that he was such a great conduit between the playing group and that coaches and football admin side of things. But yeah, he just had a knack of knowing how to instill some real faith in his players. Like, he just made everyone want to jump on board with him and believe what he was saying. And it was, he was a completely different captain to like Burnsy or Bucks, who was before him. But yeah, he had the trust of the playing group for a long time.
Were there any others that you were developing pretty good relationships with early? I think Sean Rusling was another that you may have lived with early.
Yeah, Ruz lived with us at Stevenson Street. I moved into Harry's old room.
Oh,
And Heritier, I should say, Heritia's old room. And I think he may have had someone else before that, but I can't remember who. But he kind of, and that was one of the other things he did, like took in young blokes who were making their way through the club and made them feel comfortable. His family made everyone feel comfortable. His wife, Erin, was amazing. Like, even if I go to Melbourne now, he'll be like, "You want to crash at our place?" And it's great. I missed, obviously, seeing all his kids grow up, but his whole family was just amazing to us. Really cool environment to be around. And, they played a few tricks on us, and some were a bit gross. The dog, he used to make like a roast. He used to love making like a roast. And there was one time where his dog Ralph was like chewing on this bone and left it outside on a plate or something, and I grabbed it and started eating it. And they just let me gnaw on this thing after the dog had been having a go at it after I got home. So that's definitely stuck with me, obviously.
Yes, that's obviously played a big part in what you are today. Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, see, you look at Nick on the outside and you see him as a very humble man that's done a lot, obviously, but yeah, he's got a little bit of those tricks up his sleeve. So.
No, he certainly does. He certainly does.
Now, I need to chat. I just want to get your thoughts briefly, of course, on what took place early 2008 with your little drink driving incident, and I guess I don't know. But you hadn't played a game yet, and when you got caught, I know there was a lot of fanfare about it, a lot written in the media, and there was so much spoken about the sponsorship that Collingwood had lost at the time and the money and the likes of that. But I don't want to talk about that side. I want to talk about what learnings came out of that for you? Everyone speaks about pivotal moments early in their football careers that takes them down one path or another. What details or what factors helped you get through that period? Because I have no doubt, and you obviously can't speak for yourself, but I'm sure you would have faced a lot of difficulties, particularly mentally at that time, knowing, I guess, how young you were and I guess the ramifications as well that had on the club at such a young age.
Yeah, well, to start, like I didn't realize the severity of what I'd done in the moment, and going into the club the following day, or not following day, but after that weekend, and just kind of mentioning it off the cuff and not really grasping what it meant to the club was a real kind of eye opener. That the impact was going to be obviously the financial, side of it, but there were also people working at the club who were going to be impacted as well. So yeah, it was a lot of embarrassment and shame and just feeling stupid and wanting to pretty much crawl under a rock, which I think I did for a couple of days. Maxie kind of had to slide the food under the door, but he was a massive support. I was obviously living with him at that stage, and it was really supportive through that period. But in terms of like the resilience side of things and what I wanted to kind of make good on it, it made me want to just kind of pay back the club for having that faith in me. And it could have been really easy for them to go, he's a rookie listed player, he's made a mistake, off you go. But Eddie and Mick were really kind of the opinion that I could do something at the football club, obviously. And so they said, you better do something. And it just gave me a little bit of, I suppose, desire to pay back the faith that they put in me. And yeah. And I'd had a really good preseason up until that point. I was going really well. Obviously a huge setback mentally, but I was able to probably apply myself even harder through the rest of summer, and then just try and do everything right. Managed to make myself out onto the ground in round 5 or 6, whatever it was that year, as a skinny 19-year-old.
Yeah, we'll get on to Anzac Day in a moment. A pretty solid debut from yourself. It's great to see that Mick and Eddie had that faith in you so early on in the
and Jeff Walsh too, and Jeff would have played a big part in those conversations as well.
No doubt. Yeah. Was Eddie's faith given to you? Was that before or after the big spray that you copped from him?
Well, it was definitely after the spray. Yeah, one of the all-time sprays, and. Yeah, he was. I think he just returned from a holiday. It was summer. He might have been up in Noosa or something like that, as he probably regularly did, or down at Lawn. But I remember he was wearing like a little bit of a beigey salmon suit thing. And I swear, as he was yelling at me, I was just like, "Your face looks the exact same color as your suit right now." And he told me to get out of the office, and I don't want to look at you. And then they obviously had their conversation, and they called me back in, and he said, "We're going to, throw our arms around you. You're going to cop your punishment, and the sanctions that we'll put in place. But we're going to support you through what you've done."
Yeah, and I think it's a side that not many people see about Eddie, because I think again, I don't want to speak for other people, but, you feel like in that situation, maybe in this day and age, it's a little easier to sort of just put them back out and say that was your one and only opportunity. But to see that, as I said, that they've kept the faith, and to have seen you turn out the way you did as a Collingwood footballer, it's a good credit to them. And it's great to see that you did learn so much from that. And you spoke about your debut, Anzac Day, 2008. We've had a couple of players on this pod. So Brett McCaffrey and Mason Cox are two that have also debuted on Anzac Day that we've spoken to in the past. And, they highlighted the incredible occasion that it is. Did you see a debut coming so early in that season? And I guess what was the experience like from your eyes being part of a club? Because we spoke before about how quickly you've realised the enormity of the club, its stature in the competition, but you probably don't experience it properly till you play in front of so many people like you did that day.
Yeah, so like Anzac Day in itself, I was actually quite close the year before to getting a call up on Anzac Day, and I think I may have been emergency that game potentially. Like it was, pretty close to getting done. And then the rest of the season was nowhere near. But obviously being part of going to, the dawn service as a non-player and experiencing that for the first time and how big Anzac Day is in Melbourne was really cool. And then how big a part of that occasion, the two clubs play as well. And back then it really was just Collingwood and Essendon. Right? It wasn't as big of a spread out kind of occasion. But then, fast forward a year, standing out there, and I remember walking through the banner, and I was just kind of like taking it all in, looking at the crowd, and Josh Fraser was like, "Mate, switch on, we're about to go play," because I'm just like off with the fairies a little bit, trying to soak it all up. But yeah, I just remember just feeling in awe of the stadium and the spine tingling feeling you get going down your neck as the last post's played, and being able to hear a cough or a sneeze in the crowd that you can hear. It's pretty awesome. And I've been back and watched a couple more as a spectator, and it's still just as incredible as the first time that I experienced it as a player.
There's been some pretty good ones recently too, so you're absolutely right.
It's been cracks with that. I was there the other year for the amazing come from behind victory with Dakes. I was right in front of Dakes as he kicked that goal in the pocket in the last quarter as well. It was pretty cool to experience that from the seats.
Oh, for sure. And there's been some great Anzac Day moments that you've been a part of as well over the journey, I'm sure, that you've been able to reminisce on too. So the rest of that 2008 season, because we weren't doing too badly. I think we got knocked out. It might have been the semi-final against St Kilda that year potentially. But I'm sure there would have been some pressure for you to hold your spot in that side, particularly with how strong that midfield group was.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still had like a lot of experienced older players who were still contributing a lot as well. Like Burnsy was still playing, Shane O'Brien was still playing, Duncan Lockyer, all these kind of elder statesmen that were Paul LeCuria, like all these absolute guns were still kind of running around. So it was pretty tough, but I think I managed to hold my own for most of the season and get a taste for it. I think I played 10 or 12 games or something for the year, which was enough to, after rounds 5, to feel like I'd held my spot for a lot of the year. And then, you kind of reflect on it after the year, and it just became about getting bigger and stronger and faster and being able to go out there and hold my spot for even more of the year and contribute in a more meaningful way, I suppose. But we had such a cool, like, young group of people who were coming together as well and building that connection on field together as well. So I really just wanted to be a part of that.
So that connection I felt was pretty illustrated throughout that time. And I think a big part of that was the role that Mick Malthouse played, and I'm sure that you've got a great relationship with him still, because you can just see the influence he's had on so many past players at the club. What was he like for you in those formative years? Because as you said, a fantastic midfield group because of youth and experience, but I'm sure still a tough task for you to try and stick around and be a consistent figure in that area. What was he like in terms of giving you that opportunity and allowing you to play your best footy to ultimately play such a big role on that side in a couple of years' time?
Yeah, he gave me a fair bit of responsibility. We had the absolute superstars in Pendles and Swanee and Daisy, and then obviously Luke coming in a couple of years later. But I'd almost be kind of tasked with a negating role. He'd often come to me to kind of try and hold the opposition's best player, which was part of learning how to play. And he had a lot of confidence in me being able to do that. And if I wasn't able to, he wouldn't throw me out of the side. He'd kind of just we'd soak it up. But
Yeah.
He instilled a lot of confidence in me from the time I was really young, which I think is what made our coaching and player relationship really good, is that he never tried to stop me from playing a brand of footy that I enjoyed and utilised my strengths. I think he knew how to get the most out of what I was able to bring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can understand where you're coming from. And Mick's fantastic at getting the best out of so many players. Now, I'm sure we can spend an hour on 2010, but I want to just touch on a few tidbits. When I was doing some extra research on you before today, I actually didn't realise that you were in some trade talks for Luke Ball. 2000.
I don't think I realised that.
Well, look, it worked out because you both got to play in the flag, so that's fantastic. But how close was it in terms of you potentially switching over at that point?
No, I've had no idea. So it wasn't like anything contract-wise kind of came about. I think it may have just been conversations in my name came up, and it wasn't formally presented to me, I don't believe. I think maybe something with North Melbourne may have, which may have been like a little a three-club deal or something like that, because I had a good relationship with Brad Scott, who I think by that stage had become head coach at North Melbourne. So, I don't know how close it got, but hindsight's a great thing. I'm glad it didn't go through.
Oh, we're glad it didn't go through in the end. It's funny because you spoke about the confidence that had been instilled with you from the coaching staff and I'm sure players around you. It didn't knock you about seeing your name pop up in some of those rumours and potential propositions?
I don't think so. My loose memory of it is it was more so just because Brad Scott wanted me to go there.
Okay.
I remember kind of thinking that, not so much like, oh, yeah, have Sharrod.
Yeah, okay. It's a bit of fodder here just to try and
exactly. Oh, you need some steak knives.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I never felt like that, and I never felt like the club. I never felt like the club didn't want me there.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, at any stage.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, it was proven in the fact that you got to play so many games for the next few years. 2010. We've heard so many perspectives of that drawn grand final and the week in between heading into the replay, but in the best way that you can summarise those 2 weeks, because it's quite phenomenal and something now we're never going to see again with the way that the rules are with grand finals. But again, at such a young age, it would have been such a surreal experience being involved in the biggest game of the year and getting the chance to do it twice and ultimately coming out on top at the end.
Yeah. I mean, post siren, I had no idea what the process was going to be. I don't think many players did. Maxi had no idea. He wanted to keep going, and probably fortunate that we didn't, because they had a fair bit of momentum going into that last couple of minutes. But my memory of that kind of week, I'd never been to a grand final. I'd never been and watched a grand final, so the whole experience, I'd obviously watched every grand final, from when I was a kid, but the whole experience of Melbourne just absolutely teeming, having 10 to 15,000 people come down and watch training throughout the week, organising tickets for family, organising flights for family, all these kind of logistics that go into the week. It was really whirlwind kind of week. And I felt like the next week everyone had just kind of settled and taken a breath and calmed. And we obviously recovered a lot quicker and were able to feel a lot fresher going into the next week. They were probably a more experienced side and we were really quite young. So it was bound to happen, and they'd been around the mark for a couple of years. So yeah, my memory was just that once the siren went, like, next week we're just going to be at our best. After a lot of players probably not having a great game, to be in a position where we were leading for the majority of the game, I believe, and then kind of them come back, we just knew we'd be a better team the following week, and that's exactly what Mick said. It's what Eddie said. And he gave us that confidence straight away, straight after the game in his post-game address.
I'm not sure what you're like in terms of remembering moments in game, but it seemed like in a lot of Collingwood supporters' mind, your goal and Swanee's goal back to back in that third quarter of the replay was pretty much the sealing moment, and that we knew that we were going to go and win it. Do you remember that time specifically? Because, I mean, it was a whirlwind, but the game was trending in a different direction to what it was the week before. We were clearly the better side, and we were putting them to the sword in that term. Just knowing that you were able to play a part by producing a pivotal moment, do you reminisce a bit lately?
I'm proud that I got to contribute at in a really important part of the game, in a period in the game where we had to really take advantage of that momentum that we did have. And so, yeah, to have contributed in that time. I remember there was Dawsey, Kath, myself, and like, do you remember that marking contest that Swanee crumbs the ball? I'd just kicked the one before, I think,
Yes.
and nearly took that mark. And I was like, I'm going to hit the scoreboard again. The Swanee's crumbed it perfectly. But I just felt like, yeah, this is, we're going to break their back right here. And yeah, like having that confidence that they were kind of off, or that they weren't just going to be able to stay with us. The last quarter was pretty special, being able to kind of soak it up and not have it go down to the wire like the week before was really awesome. And just being able to soak that up with our teammates, and it was pretty special.
Yeah, you still kicked 2 goals in the game, so don't worry. You got your one at the end. So.
Yeah, I know. Would have been nice to get that mark though.
We'll let Swanee know that he ruined it for you. Now, I've been fortunate to be good mates with Brett McCaffrey over the last few years, and I know that you guys were in the same rookie draft, so it's great to get the chance to chat to you today. He always said that he felt he took the premiership for granted at that age, because he sort of felt like the success was just going to follow him for the rest of his career, because he's come to the club and you've been playing finals and had a pre-settled squad, a veteran coach who knew how to win, and some fantastic players around you. Did you have the same feeling when you look back on hindsight that it was all just going to come to me, and then knowing how things sort of took place between your two clubs for the rest of your career?
Yes and no. I think I didn't take it for granted, but I was very aware of how lucky I was that I was a part of a great side. And so, we play in a grand final 11. We lose 3 games all to Geelong that year. I haven't watched the 2011 grand final back, but all reports, it is an absolutely incredible game. And that's how I remember. I remember it being a real tussle. And then, them kind of going, breaking away with a few kind of, 6 or 8 minutes to go in the last. But I was very aware how lucky I was, but I don't think I took it for granted. And then to go to a prelim again in 12, I leave the club, but then find myself back there in 2015 in a grand final again. I think that by then I'd realised how hard it was going to be to get there again. And so, the enormity of the occasion, or not the enormity of the occasion, but the meaning of the occasion was probably stronger than when I was like, oh, I'm young, I can just keep this will keep happening. But I don't mean that it will just keep happening. I was just like, I've got more time ahead of me, and it'll most likely happen. But I don't think I took it for granted. I was very, very grateful that I was always part of a good side.
Just diverting for a sec, not that I want to talk too much about West Coast, but in 2015, you were one of the very few players that had actually had grand final experience. And you compare that to what it was like in 10 and 11 when you were just making your way through the AFL. How much of a responsibility did you feel you had for that group to try and will them to perform on such a big occasion?
There was definitely an element of that. But I still felt like I was quite young in my career in some respects, even though I hadn't played too many more years. But we had some really mature players at the club, but there was myself, Xavier Ellis, and Sam Butler, I think, who were the only three who had some grand final experience from memory. But we had some absolutely incredibly experienced players. So, yeah, I didn't feel like the weight was on me, but, that's just me.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in 2011, 2012, you touched on it before. I mean, 2011, it felt like the camaraderie of that group, apart from probably what I've seen under McRae, has been the tightest that I've seen a team be. It just seemed like you were all so invested, and you all had that same mentality, and the black and white show was at its peak. I mean, I just couldn't get a better year, I felt. Unfortunately, didn't get the ultimate success that season, but how much do you think that just came down to Geelong being a better side that season, or were there other underlying factors? I mean, so much gets spoken about the coaching transition at that point with Bucks and Nick, but it seemed like we did everything right except go on and win the bloody thing.
I know, and that's probably the way I feel about it. Like, we couldn't have done much more that year. Like, we were probably the best home and away side that the competition had seen in I don't know how long. And so Geelong had our measure, and they were probably pissed off at us for the year before for the prelim final. And it's something that Geelong's done really well over the last couple of decades, is they've got a good memory. And they always manage to get up against sides who've wronged them. And they were a star-studded side. And yeah, they were a tough competition. And I'm proud that I got to be a part of that side, but also frustrated that we didn't capitalise. Like you said, like, we were in incredible form all year, played some good finals. Weren't able to capitalise on it. But when you lose to a side that's as strong as Geelong, you kind of, he's got to fuck eggs sometimes.
I'd get over it quicker if they still weren't so good now.
Oh, I know.
Every time I see them,
I don't know how they do it, eh?
No, I don't know. I'm very glad that the Pies aren't facing in week one as much of an easy run they've had, but that's okay. Maybe we'll cop them another grand final. We'll see.
Might have been prelim, I think.
Oh yeah, well, I guess it would be at that point. But either way, I'm ready. I'm ready to.
We'll beat them again in a prelim.
Yeah, that's fine. I love that. Oh, that 2010 prelim, that must have
been the best.
That was the best games you would have been a part of.
Oh, incredible! Like, it was the first time I'd heard the crowd like chanting Collingwood at that volume.
Yeah.
Because we were up by 10 goals at Cricket time or something stupid, and it felt like everybody in the stadium was just chanting. It was absolutely spine tingling. So yeah, one of the best wins I ever remember being part of.
Did you kick a goal early in that game too, from memory?
Maybe. Well, I played a lot of games against Geelong. I definitely, feel I did, but it might have been the grand final the next year. I don't know.
I'll have to fact check it.
Fact check that.
Tell me though. So obviously grand finals are a different beast, but what's your most memorable match apart from a grand final that really sticks by? Is it something as simple as a debut for you? Was there a moment early in your time at the Pies that you felt like, is just one that sticks in your mind for some reason?
2011 v Adelaide late in the year.
Yes, of course.
We were down by a mountain.
Yeah.
And it's not like we weren't taking it seriously, but it was almost like at 3/4 time, we just went like, all right, let's win this game, and clicked into a whole nother gear. And the fact that Cracks took that mark of the year.
Oh, yeah.
I just remember that because it was such a, come from behind victory where we just knew we had it in us, that we would be able to win from any point at that stage in the game. And, there's probably some arrogance rolled up in there somewhere, but that's just how confident we were in each other and the team. Yeah, it was pretty cool. That was a really cool victory.
That was another mixed spray at 3/4 time you copped, didn't you? Pretty sure.
Probably.
I just checked. Yes, you did. You did kick a goal. You kicked the third goal of that game, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but you
I
did.
think I may have marked it in the goal square against Enright.
Oh, you
I
could have
thought
made
that may have
yourself
been.
sound better than that, but yeah, maybe you did.
Oh, like a huge contested mark.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, 100%. The one that you should have taken 2 weeks later. Uh, and then, so your Collingwood time starts to come to an end around that 2012 period, and you could see that, there was a few players starting to hang up the boots or move clubs, and there was a transition period starting to occur at that stage. At what point was it purely the offer from West Coast that made you consider moving back home, or were there other factors that you felt suited you to have a new environment?
It was actually nothing to do with football, really. My mum wasn't well, and so I kind of felt I needed to be home at that stage. It was just more so the fact that West Coast were willing to make that happen. I didn't want to leave Collingwood per se, and there were other Melbourne clubs who had other picks that they were willing to. Mark Neild again had ended up at Melbourne at this stage, and so he wanted to try and get us over there. Who I bumped into the other day over his daughter lives over here.
Oh,
he
right.
did a podcast.
He did.
And I was sitting in the cafe, and it had popped up in my phone, and I literally was waiting for a coffee, and I slid the phone away, and then Mark Neild's walked into the bloody cafe. I was like,
Oh.
that is a spin out. Like, I could not believe that.
Well, hopefully when someone listens to this and you're walking past, that would be great.
But I digress. I had an opportunity to move home, and I grew up going and supporting West Coast. They were willing to make it happen. Fremantle were willing to make it happen too, and had a longer contract and a little bit more money too. Yep. But I wanted to come home and play for West Coast. I was really sad to be leaving Collingwood, but it was just something I probably just needed to do at that stage. And it is what it is. But I felt that the fact that I was part of the 2010 Premiership made me feel like I'd contributed at the footy club. And so gave me a little bit of comfort in leaving before I'd finished my career, which, some people might say you shouldn't leave any footy club. A lot of people like players to be a one club player. But the opportunity was there, and I felt that I needed to come back home.
I think that's a really good perspective to have, and a good view as a whole, considering the effort and everything that you did to help us achieve success at that point. And family speaks for itself, so it's a pretty understandable reason why in the end. What's the best way you sum up your time at Collingwood when you look back over it? Has it changed over time since you've retired? Is there anything particular that sticks out in your memory? What sense of pride do you have when you look back and know that you were a Collingwood player?
The fact that I was there through such a young age, and I feel like I walked out of there a young man. I went over there as a boy, and I walked out a young man, and Collingwood enabled that to happen. It was a very formative period of my life, and I think that the way that I would summarize it was the whole 6-7 years, where however long it was, 6.5 years that I spent there. It was whirlwind. I'm in Melbourne as a young AFL footballer. There's a lot going on, and I'm getting to play at the MCG every weekend and playing in final series, and I just feel like the whole time was a complete whirlwind of enjoyment. And I consider myself extremely lucky and grateful.
Yeah, it sums it up really well. A few more things that I want to get from you before we wrap up. You've been fantastic with your time today, mate. So we really do thank you. You came back to the club recently last year. You presented Ed Allen with his jersey, and I'm sure it would have been a fantastic opportunity for you to be back within the four walls. Do you often get back? Do you have any opportunities to come visit the club?
Yeah, I've been back a few times. When was it last? To be in Melbourne. Fly actually got us back in the lead up to the grand final in 23, which was really cool. And got to go sit in one of their last meetings before grand final, and kind of just speak about what it meant to be a Premiership player at Collingwood. And so that was a really incredible experience. Got to hang around at the grand final celebration dinner after the game as well, where I kind of felt a little bit like a spare dick, but
A few things, did you?
watching Das just absolutely crush it up on the dance floor. But you know, the club's always been welcoming, and presenting the jumper for Ed last year was really cool, because it gave me a little bit of time to reflect on kind of what it meant to me. And you know, he's out there forging his own career now, but trying to, you know, instill a little bit of what it meant to me before he now has that opportunity was really cool. And I was stoked when the club asked me to do it.
What was 23 like for you watching? First Premiership since the one that you were a part of 15 years ago now, but it must have been pretty cool to see a group of 22 players. Oh, sorry, to remind you, I mean, don't worry. I'm sure you celebrate every year, so don't worry.
Yeah, we do.
But it must have been pretty cool to see a new group of players have that same feeling of joy that you did all that time ago.
Yeah, definitely. My most enjoyable part of it was probably seeing Pendles and Sidey get another one. You know, teammates that had lost a couple on the way to that one in 23. So it's getting to watch them cherish it, and you know, like I said before about knowing how hard it is by the time you're at the back end of your career, and seeing them kind of get the other end of what I felt, you know, was really cool. They're like just watching Sidey and Pendles contribute as well. Like that was pretty bloody awesome. Yeah, I think that it was great to be able to see Collingwood bounce back after obviously 18 and tasted loss there, and that group who were all part of it get to taste it after only you know, knowing a loss is really nice as well. And then obviously just all that youth that, you know, watching the Dacos boys be able to come through and smash one out nice and early as well is pretty cool. But yeah, my most enjoyable part of it was probably Pendles and Sidey.
The other most integral part to that game, of course, was Bobby going on to win the Norm Smith medal. Now, you were the first first Indigenous Collingwood player, I should say, to win a premiership. Bobby being a WA man himself and having the ultimate experience and winning a medal, and you talk about contributions, well, he was second to none, of course. That must have made you feel pretty proud too, especially considering the work that the club had done with the Do Better report over the last half a decade and trying to get that acknowledgement and rectify those, I guess, those mistakes that the club had made during that time from a culture point of view. It would have been nice to see that not tied in one way or another.
Absolutely. For him to be able to contribute the way he did was awesome on first night. Like I was like city end of the ground. Is that Ponsford stand?
Yep.
Like behind the goals, I was with Maxi and Bucks, and his impact through that whole game. We were just all like looking at each other like it's incredible. And so for him to be able to stand up, be an Indigenous Collingwood player and stand up on grand final day, yeah, I was really, really proud of him. And I got to do a couple of sporty nights with him over that summer, and just chatting with him. You know, he's young, but he understands how you know, significant it is. And yeah, I just been really proud of him. Yeah.
hopefully we can see that again.
Hopefully, I was going to say, hopefully we can see him back out there.
Absolutely. All right, a couple of quick fire things to wrap up. Sharrod, tell me your toughest opponent.
Oh, Gaz Ablett.
Yeah.
Oh, now, yeah, probably Gaz.
Yeah, no, he's insane. We asked this to Maxi when we had him on a couple of years ago, and it got a pretty funny reaction. So I'm hoping you can bring something similar. The funniest sledge that you've copped or you've heard on a footy field?
Oh, yeah, probably Heath Shaw asking the umpire to stop the game because there was still an Oz kicker out there because Stevie Milne was playing. That's a funny one.
Yes.
Yeah, there's been some other ones that, NSFW.
Yes, I think so. Have you ever been recognized? No, sorry, hold on. I'll repeat. Have you ever been, has someone ever thought you were somebody else, like a different Collingwood player, or that you look like someone that you obviously aren't?
You might remember a group called One Direction.
Of course, yes. Yeah, I see where this is going.
And they were actually performing across the road at Rod Labour. And I was walking out of training and like a bunch of people thought I was Zane. And he was I think I may have had a shaved head as well at that stage. Yep. I don't know, but like, yeah, there was like people chasing after us.
Did you go along with it? That would have been hilarious.
No, too embarrassing.
The reason I ask, and I've got to give a shout out to my brother here, I reckon he was 7 or 8 years old, but we had a silent auction at our local footy club ages ago. And there was a framed photo of a Collingwood player, and he said, "Oh, why has no one bid on this? You know, this would be fantastic." And so he brought it, and he brought it home to us and to my dad and I. He's like, "Hey, look, it's Scott Pendlebury. I got this framed photo of Scott
it was
Pendlebury, and it was you." I don't know if you've ever been recognised as Scott, but that's a new one.
On field, like we kind of, I don't know, because he's a little bit taller than me, but you know, we kind of, for some reason, looked a little bit similar on field.
You did,
yeah.
Now that I think about it,
I wish I could move like he did.
Well, if you had the dreads like he did, then maybe you're similar.
They weren't great.
Maybe not. Do you reckon you would be remembered more in your career for the Cade Simpson hit or for BT going with the Wellingham goal? Let's go.
Oh, look, to be honest, now with TikTok and stuff, it's probably the Wellingham. But yeah, there was definitely a period there where it was just the Simpson hit, and something I'm not overly fond of. I'm glad that the BT commentary has taken precedent.
Yes.
The poor Cade suffering the wrath of that. Swanee could kick straight, it wouldn't have happened.
Oh, see, another thing we can blame Swanee. So we've got the mark that you should have taken in the grand final, and now that. All right, cool. Well, we'll get this back to him.
Watch it back. Like, that kick was meant to be so far out the other side, and he's shanked it. And
yeah, go on, say it.
Well, that's why I ended up in that position.
You mentioned 2010 Premiership reunions. Who gets the loosest every year? Or is that too obvious as well?
No, it's usually someone different every year. Yeah. Sidey was good last year.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sidey was really good last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually the usuals.
No, fantastic. And last one, 2025. Do you give us a chance this season? I know it's been a rough couple of weeks and we've got a big game against Adelaide, but do you believe this group can go all the way and replicate 23?
Yeah, look, it's going to be hard with the kind of form. I don't like saying form, but like the way that the team has been playing.
Okay.
Jeremy being out, just how he's being out is a really big one. Hopefully he can get back. What's his diagnosis? Like, what's his call?
3 to 4 weeks, and apparently that's going to be on the lighter side too. So
yeah, look, I think that if they can improve by a little bit across the board, then anything is possible. But yeah, it's going to be tough, but anything is possible.
Yes. Well, this group has been built on belief, and that's what got us so far a couple of years ago. So
yeah, and I think that despite the little bit of struggle town that the club's in, the team's in at the moment, I think the playing group still has a lot of belief that when they are on, they can produce some pretty incredible football.
Well, yeah, let's hope we get that. Sharrod, do you have a nickname? Do you get different names?
Yeah, I get too many.
Too many. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Reel through a couple of them for us.
No, Shaz, Rod, Chup, Rodney.
Rodney?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Shaz, it's been fantastic to have you.
Wellers.
Yeah. Nothing with the ham? Okay. I thought would have squeezed every part of your name just to try and come in.
Did you?
Shaz. Yours, not mine. It's been wonderful to have you. It's been great to chat and reminisce. And look, as a fan growing up and watching you play, you've made such an amazing contribution to the club, and it's wonderful that you've still got that in your heart. And whilst you're over in WA, I'm sure you've still got Collingwood well and truly at the top of your mind, especially at this time of year when we're over in finals footy. But it's been a pleasure to have you on, been great to chat, and all the best for whatever lies ahead, mate.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's great. It's always good to chat, Pies.